They got him this time. There's no escape. They're totally going to get the Donald this time. It's going to happen because they're referring criminal charges to the DOJ that we knew that they were going to refer. In fact, the exact ones that we knew that they were going to refer. From the first time anybody basically since January 8th of 2021, we knew this was coming. Whether or not there's actually going to be evidence for a trial for this, nobody knows. But I mean, this is not news. But we're going to talk about it like it's news because the mainstream media wants you to focus on this and not Arizona. So we'll go over some of that and some of the other aftermath that's coming out of this too, including going after some members of Congress. And we'll talk about that. Kari Lake scores a legal win as she is allowed to investigate ballots, ballot measures, and what happened on Election Day in 2022 in Arizona, in spite of the fact that Katie Hobbs did certify the election. So the fireworks are starting. We'll go over this and see what happens with that. In some more Trump news, the Donald does come back and endorses Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Will this be what pushes him over the edge, or will this be the poison pill that gets rid of him? We'll discuss some of that and what some people look at when they see things like this. And Title 42 is back on. In fact, the Remain in Mexico policy continues because of the COVID, which again, my big problem with that is not the fact that Title 42 is there, it's the fact that nobody can make a decision on whether or not they believe in the commie coup. It is going to be all this and more. We actually have a lot to go over here because of a busy weekend here. So, we are back. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I really like it when we get a couple of really good pump-up songs right at the beginning of the show. It just, especially, because insomnia struck again, and I barely slept last night. So I'm here, but we're going to power through because there's way too much news for us to skip a day here. I mean, we've already skipped 2 weeks, and a flood of news came in for that. I can't even afford to skip a day right now as we keep seeing stuff like this here. So we're going to get into it. We're going to stay into it. My name is Jay Edgar. This is Contemporary, and we have a lot to go over here today. This was a busy weekend in the news with Elon coming out and basically offering to step down. In fact, a poll coming out saying that he should step down, so we'll be talking about that. The Trump criminal charges, which again, I mean, I said in the intro, everybody and their brother knew that not only was there going to be criminal charging coming down, it was going to be these charges. It's an insurrection, he's an insurrectionist, and it's obstructing a legal proceeding and everything else. In spite of the fact that he never went to the building. I don't see actually any of these charges sticking, but I mean, you knew that these were the ones that were coming down, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Kari Lake because nobody in the mainstream media wants you to talk about Kari Lake, and Elon Musk and the poll, and Elon Musk and Linktree too, by the way, because that was a bizarre one, and I was fairly solidly off the Elon train when I saw the Linktree thing because, well, that really nerfs the platform's ability for most creators, because most of them are not the hyperinflated leftoids who are using their Linktree to put up their Mastodon. Most of them are like me, even though I don't have a Linktree myself, who would use such a program to list the Twitch, the YouTube, the Twitter obviously, the Instagram, even though that's one of the forbidden sites, but all the places basically where my video all shows up. But I do understand Elon's point on this too, not even just from the personal side where people are trying to go over to Mastodon to dox him, but just on a business standpoint. You know, you're using my platform to promote my competitor's platform, so we'll talk about that as well. There's a lot to go over here. So before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, and the No Gimmicks podcast. Go check out all that great programming as we all come together to try to bring you good news from the common man for the common man, and culture as well. News and culture, great things, because, you know, most of our news and culture, your Netflix, your Paramount Plus, your CNN, your NBC, your ABC, those are all controlled by people who walk around wearing suits that cost more than your house, and I don't agree with that. I'd like to come out, I'd like to get movies, music, video games coming up our platform as well, but just come together and actually build news and culture for the common man, from the common man for the common man. So go check out all those great programs who are coming together to do just that as we get started. And I will be taking a serious look this year, since I've got the significant pay raise and can probably afford it now, on getting the website up, running, and getting the people auto-pulling as soon as they come out and start posting. I haven't heard from the R-Rated Conservative in quite a while. Actually, I've got to call the dude and see how he's doing, if he's doing okay or not. Because I thought after he moved, he was going to be coming back. But I mean, it's been months. So we'll see what's happening with that. Let's get into the news. Let's get in and see what is happening. We're going to start, as we usually do, looking at finance. And the Dow puked off another 162 points today. Not as deep as Friday's sell-off, by the way. Let's get the live chat up here. If you do see me coming out here and talking, I do not interact much with the live chat. And I'm talking a little bit now because we are at a point where there's access out there to a new audience, a more West Coast audience here. So I do want to remind you that we do live chat on Friday. I write the names down of everybody who chats in the live chat and give everybody a special thank you at the end of the show on Friday. And we do go over some of your Friday live chats again. So if you do have commentary, and even if I don't read them on the show, I do sit down and read all of your live chat at the end of the show, because I do want to see what it is that you guys think about this, and you help me shape my future shows. So feel free, even if you don't get a response. I am paying attention, so go and check that out. The Dow bumped off another 0.5%, and it looked like it tried to recover in the end, but I mean, it tried to recover in the end of Friday too. There's just not a momentum here right now. People are looking at this and they're trying to make the decisions whether or not they can buy the toys for the kids, whether or not they can buy the meal and get everybody over for the Christmas dinner. And some of this is going to be going into the housing market as well. It was one of the predictions that I had, especially when I said, and you know, people are saying, oh, the housing market was going to crash in October, or it's going to crash in the fall. I always said March. After the cold snap hit and people started to see their heating bills on top of everything else, and I haven't really looked and seen what the raise is in some of these here, but the heating bills, as they start to make more people homeless and people start to wonder whether or not they can pay rent or whether or not they can get into that house right now, whether or not they can afford it, that's where the problem is going to be. So we'll continue to watch and see what happens with this. Let's look in at your Bitcoin. Bitcoin has also not been doing well. We've got the 5-day out here, and we see just before Friday, we had a significant drop off in the Bitcoin. And it stayed steady throughout the weekend, but then coming back and dropping off again towards the end of trading that we've seen so far today here, bringing ourselves down to $16,431 and 40 US cents. Across the 5-day, that is another give up of $1,374 and 30 US cents, or 7.72%. Looking in at a bit of a closer run here, and it looks like this is about the time that they must start here. It's about 6 p.m. I don't know what time zone the actual market trading is registered in, but it looks like it just switched over here, so it's down $8.30 on the day, bringing us down 0.5%. But yeah, it's giving up the ghost as we go, which, I mean, for me as a crypto enthusiast, I do remind you that it's on sale right now. So if you are interested, now would be the time to go and grab some, because I mean, it will go up eventually here once everything starts recovering and people start looking and wondering whether or not they can actually make a gain versus a savings account. So something to pay attention to. Not something necessarily you should get into if you're not comfortable with, but definitely something to pay attention to as we go. Looking at gas prices in the Madison area, it does look like we're coming up just a bit. Not very much, but just a little bit here. On the Isthmus, we're at $2.69. On the Isthmus proper, we are at $2.70, and just on the other side of the upside of the Isthmus, we're at $2.70, but we're seeing the $2.80 on the far west side on the quick trip, 260 on the other far west side on the quick trip, 279 of the BP coming out on the east side, and 259. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. A couple stations went up and a couple went down around the St. Madison area. So it's bouncing around, it's bumping around a little bit to see what it is that we do during the holiday season. Let's see what IBD has to say here. Dow extends losing streak as Apple sells off. Tesla hits new low amid Elon Musk Twitter poll from Scott Latonin. Dow futures were higher and after-hours trade ahead of Tuesday's open. After the Dow Jones Industrial Average extended a losing streak Monday, Apple shares sold off for a fourth straight session and are approaching new lows, while Tesla stock hit a fresh 52-week low amid Chief Executive Elon Musk's Twitter poll. Late Monday, Heiko rallied 1.5% after the company's earnings and sales numbers topped analyst estimates. More earnings reports this week include General Mills, Micron Technology, and Dow stock Nike. On Monday, the Dow Industrial Average fell 0.5% or 163 points, and the S&P lost 0.9. The tech-heavy NASDAQ sold off 1.5%. Among ETFs, the NASDAQ 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust moved down 1.6%, and the SPDR S&P 500 fell 0.85%. EV giant Tesla traded down 0.2% on Monday. Among Dow top stocks, Apple lost 1.6%, and Microsoft declined 1.7% in today's stock market. IBD leaderboard stock Neurocrine Biosciences, KLA, O'Reilly Automotive, and United Rentals, as well as Dow names Caterpillar, Home Depot, and United Health Group are among top stocks to consider for investor watch list. Neurocrine and United Rentals are IBD leaderboard stocks. United Health was featured in last week's Stocks Nearby Zone column. Caterpillar and United Rentals were IBD stock of the day companies. Ahead of Tuesday's opening bell, Dow futures rose 0.1% versus fair value, while the S&P inched higher. Tech-heavy NASDAQ gained 0.15% versus fair value. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The 10-year yield jumped to 3.58% on Monday, its highest level since December 12th. U.S. oil prices rose about 2% on Monday, ending a two-day losing streak. West Texas Intermediate traded at $76 a barrel. Now is an important time to read IBD's The Big Picture column, with stock market trend back at an uptrend under pressure. Even though the NASDAQ and S&P indices remain in uptrends, the stock market rally is under increasing pressure amid sharp losses over the last few trading sessions. That means investors should consider cutting back their already reduced exposure. It is clear that the defense is priority over buying breakouts in the current market. Still, it's a good time to find out which stocks will shrug off the stock market volatility. As IBD readers know, stocks that hold up the best during the weak markets can become big winners in the futures when the market turns around. An easy way to gauge the stock strength is to use the relative strength line. The RS line compares a stock price action to that of the S&P 500. A rising line tells you the stock is outperforming the benchmark index. Even if a stock falls in price, the S&P falls harder. The stock's RS line still rises. So that's what we see coming out of the markets today. I am going to restrict us to one market article here because we have so much to go over, and we've been doing good with getting through everything in the 2-hour allotment here. So let's talk Trump. And we are going to start by listening to Mr. Raskin himself tell us what happened and why he thinks the Donald is guilty. And I mean, we know why he thinks the Donald is guilty, but we're going to hear it from his mouth. So without further ado, Representative Jamie Raskin.
About potential referrals to the Department of Justice and other authorities based on evidence of criminal. Several months ago, you tasked several of our members in a subcommittee with bringing recommendations to the full committee about potential referrals to the Department of Justice and other authorities based on evidence of criminal and civil offenses that has come to our attention over the course of our investigation. We are now prepared to share those recommendations today. Mr. Chairman, let me begin with some relevant background considerations to our criminal referrals. The dangerous assault on American constitutional democracy that took place on January 6, 2021 consists of hundreds of individual criminal offenses. Most such crimes are already being prosecuted by the Department of Justice. We propose to the committee advancing referrals where the gravity of the specific offense, the severity of its actual harm, and the centrality of the offender to the overall design of the unlawful scheme to overthrow the election compel us to speak. Ours is not a system of justice where foot soldiers go to jail and the masterminds and ringleaders get a free pass. Mr. Chairman, as you know, our committee had the opportunity last spring to present much of our evidence to a federal judge, something that distinguishes our investigation from any other congressional investigation I can recall. In the context of resolving evidentiary privilege issues related to the crime-fraud doctrine in the Eastman case, U.S. District Court Judge David Carter examined just a small subset of our evidence to determine whether it showed the likely commission of a federal offense. The judge concluded that both former President Donald Trump and John Eastman likely violated 2 federal criminal statutes. This is the starting point for our analysis today. The first criminal statute we invoke for referral, therefore, is Title 18, Section 1512C, which makes it unlawful for anyone to corruptly obstruct, influence, or impede any official proceeding of the United States government. We believe that the evidence described by my colleagues today and assembled throughout our hearings warrants a criminal referral of former President Donald J. Trump, John Eastman, and others for violations of this statute. The whole purpose and obvious effect of Trump's scheme were to obstruct, influence, and impede this official proceeding, the central moment for the lawful transfer of power in the United States. Second, we believe that there is more than sufficient evidence to refer former President Donald J. Trump, John Eastman, and others for violating Title 18, Section 371. This statute makes it a crime to conspire to defraud the United States. In other words, to make an agreement to impair, obstruct, or defeat the lawful functions of the United States government by deceitful or dishonest means. Former President Trump did not engage in a plan to defraud the United States acting alone. He entered into agreements, formal and informal, with several other individuals who assisted him with his criminal objectives. Our report describes in detail the actions of numerous co-conspirators who agreed with and participated in Trump's plan to impair, obstruct, and defeat the certification of President Biden's electoral victory. That said, the subcommittee does not attempt to determine all of the potential participants in this conspiracy, as our understanding of the role of many individuals may be incomplete even today because they refuse to answer our questions. We trust that the Department of Justice will be able to form a far more complete picture through its own investigation. Third, we make a referral based on Title 18, Section 1001, which makes it unlawful to knowingly and willfully make materially false statements to the federal government. The evidence clearly suggests that President Trump conspired with others to submit slates of fake electors to Congress and the National Archives. We believe that this evidence we set forth in our report is more than sufficient for a criminal referral of former President Donald J. Trump and others in connection with this offense. As before, we don't try to determine all of the participants in this conspiracy, many of whom refuse to answer our questions while under oath. We trust that the Department of Justice will be able to form a more complete picture through its own investigation. The fourth and final statute we invoke for referral is Title 18, Section 2383. The statute applies to anyone who incites, assists, or engages in insurrection against the United States of America and anyone who gives aid or comfort to an insurrection. An insurrection is a rebellion against the authority of the United States.
Guys, I just found out that my entire life is an insurrection. Who knew?
It is a grave federal offense anchored in the Constitution itself, which repeatedly opposes insurrections and domestic violence, and indeed uses participation in insurrection by office holders as automatic grounds for disqualification from ever holding public office again at the federal or state level. Anyone who incites others to engage in rebelling, assists them in doing so, or gives aid and comfort to those engaged in insurrection is guilty of a federal crime. The committee believes that more than sufficient evidence exists for a criminal referral of former President Trump for assisting or aiding and comforting those at the Capitol who engaged in a violent attack on the United States.
All right, we're not listening to any more of this because one of the things, and well, first and foremost, I will be talking just a bit about some of the other things that people were talking about with this. Some of the things that we look at when we see what actually happened with this is the particular charges that they brought forward, and especially the fourth one, because that is an insanely broad definition that you do have to come up with intent for against something that... The problem with the fourth charge, and we'll look over all four of them individually. We'll back up through the video. I'll actually open this back up and mute this so we can track and bar this around a little bit as we go. One of the problems with that is with the right lawyer involved, and you know they're going to go judge shopping in D.C., the leading people down to go to another site around the back of the Supreme Court is the incitement to riot, because you're just happen to be putting them into the situation where they'll be close enough to the Capitol that they can go back and air their grievances. And they did choose these four charges because of the broadness of them. And you know that they did, because they're, well, they need the best shot of proving it against him. And that comes from the Due Process of Law Clause that happens in the Fourth and Fifth Amendments. Now they say, and Raskin said himself, he set the line. Oh my God, it's anybody who aids and abets in an insurrection, they can never hold office for anything again, which is the point that they're trying to get to. They don't give a damn if Trump goes to jail or not, and he's not going to go to jail. The point is that I don't believe that they think they can beat him at the ballot box. They can honk and pad numbers and do all these kinds of stupid things and talk about the NFT and a whole host of other things for all of eternity. But realistically, they can't beat him at the ballot box, and they know that. Their presumptive frontrunner is senile. Who else do they have other than Biden? Kamala Harris, less than 1% in any primary. Pete Buttigieg, who visibly left in the midst of the gas price crisis and didn't come back until gas prices were starting to come down. Also oversaw the supply chain issues while again stepping away from his office, and got caught in a photo op driving in his armored vehicle and then 2 blocks away from the office, getting on the bicycle outside of it and riding the rest of the way to the office. Who else do they have? Warren, corporate wine mom. Hillary, corporate wine mom. Nancy Pelosi, corporate wine mom. I mean, I'm not seeing anybody out here. What are they going to put up? Cory Booker, will he get his angry eyes back out? They have nobody. And they know that. Because no matter which way they go, the vote is split. And if they can prevent the Donald from holding office, then they can get their little shield. Well, I don't want to go into the DeSantis side of things, but they can get somebody on there who can be their good little lapdog Republican and cower away every time you call somebody a racist, instead of actually working to get things done in spite of being called a racist. So let's look. Let's get this out here and actually look at some of the charges here. So I've got Jamie muted here. Let's get some music back up here. So I'll be tracking around just a little bit here to see if I can get the cards. All right, obstruction of an official proceeding. That is the same charge that they put against pretty much anybody who got inside of the Capitol. Even Stephen Ignoramus, who spent the entire time in the rotunda, didn't get past the rotunda with a cell phone in each hand. That is their default. Because, whoa, well, he led people down the streets to this, and then some people broke a window while the police opened up the doors for everybody else. It must be an obstruction of an official proceeding. And this is probably one of the easier charges to get on people because there was an official proceeding. It got obstructed because people were coming in. But again, a crime like this proves intent. And for the most part, with witnesses out there showing again, live streamer with a cell phone feeding to Instagram and one feeding to Restream, one in each hand, how is that person obstructing anything? But you knew that was going to come there. That went to everybody. All right, what else do we have? Let's skip around with this. Actually, I think... Let me look at Politico here. Because if we don't have to watch the Jamie Raskin video, I don't want to watch the Jamie Raskin video again, even silently. Okay, yep. 18 USC 2383, insurrection. I mean, you knew that was going to come. And again, you're going to have to show intent with that for somebody who didn't even get to the building. 18 U.S. Code 1512, obstruction of an official proceeding. And 18 U.S. Code 371, conspiracy to defraud the United States government. That is the fake electors side of things. Was there not a fourth one? All right, let's open this back up. Conspiracy to make a false statement. Well, he tried to go and get the fake electors out there. That means that he's evil and there was intent. The hardest part for any of these is going to be the intent side of things. To try to show intent to actually overthrow the government, which there wasn't. Nobody was armed except for the police that were holding people back and the National Guard. I mean, there's more evidence to come out and say there was an intent to make this happen than there was intent to overthrow the U.S. government. These people don't want to overthrow the U.S. government. They just wanted their voices heard, and they wanted their guy to be in. That's not an overthrow of the U.S. government. An overthrow of the U.S. government is like what I want in a video game, of course. These MAGA people don't want that. They want the government to take care of them. Let's actually read from Politico here. January 6th panel to vote on urging DOJ to prosecute Trump on at least 3 criminal charges. This was before the fact. This is from the 16th, so 3 days ago, from Kyle Cheney and Nicholas Wu. The Unselect Committee is preparing to vote on urging the Justice Department to pursue at least 3 criminal charges against former President Trump, including insurrection. Looks like that one got overruled. It's unclear whether the Select Committee's final report will recommend additional charges for Trump beyond the 3 described to Politico, or whether it will urge other criminal charges for other players in Trump's bid to subvert the 2020 loss. The document, according to the people familiar, includes an extensive justification for the recommended charges, mostly coming from doctored video and doctored statements, of course. To justify incitement of insurrection, the report references U.S. District Court Judge Amit Mehta's February ruling saying Trump's language plausibly incited violence on January 6, 2021, when a mob of supporters besieged the Capitol in a bid to disrupt congressional certification of his loss to Joe Biden. The report also states that the Senate's 57 votes in last year's impeachment trial, Trump's second to convict him on an incitement of insurrection charge passed by the House. Right, but he was acquitted by it. The Select Panel's report also notes that in order to violate the insurrection statute, Trump did not need an express agreement with rioters, but rather simply need to provide aid or comfort to them. That is false. You still need to have intent. Aid or comfort is not intent. A Select Committee spokesperson declined to comment. So this was the before. Reuters coming in with their 2 cents on this. This, I believe, is an op-ed, but it's not listed as an op-ed. Let's see what they have to say. Trump should face insurrection obstruction charges, U.S. Capitol riot panel says. No, okay, this is quoting them again, and again before the fact. From Patricia Zengurley and Moira Warburton. The U.S. House of Representatives committee investigating the Selfie Fest on Monday asked federal prosecutors to charge Donald Trump with obstruction and insurrection for his role in sparking the deadly riot. The Democratic-led Select Committee's request to the Justice Department is non-binding, but it comes as a special counsel is overseeing 2 other federal probes of the Republican former president related to his attempt to overturn his 2020 election defeat and the removal of classified files from the White House. Oh yeah, don't forget that actually happened. The panel asked the Justice Department to charge Trump with obstruction of an official proceeding of Congress, conspiracy to defraud the United States, making false statements, and aiding or inciting an insurrection. An insurrection is a rebellion against the authority of the United States. It is a grave federal offense, anchored in the Constitution itself, said Representative Jamie Raskin, a Democrat on the Unselect Committee, as he announced the charges. A Justice Department spokesperson declined to comment on the committee's move. A Trump spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Monday's meeting was the last final public gathering of a 9-member panel that spent 18 months editing video and working with a CNN producer to look into the attempt to hold a lot of Trump supporters into a position where they couldn't vote the next time through. The committee also said it referred 4 Republican House members, including McCarthy, to the Chamber's Ethics Committee for failing to comply with its legal subpoenas as it investigated the attack. If we are to survive as the nation of laws and democracy, you have to do exactly what the Democrats said, Benny Thompson, the Select Committee's chairperson, said as the meeting began. Slamming Trump for summoning the mob to the Capitol nearly 2 years ago, Thompson also criticized the former president for having the audacity to be president. If the faith is so broken, so is our democracy, which translates to our hegemony. Donald Trump broke our hegemony because he broke our the faith in us, Thompson said. Well, I'm sure that Rob Reiner is sitting out here saying, "We got him this time! It's gonna happen! We really got him this time!" No! We weren't serious the last 20 times. We're really serious this time. Let's grab one from Fox News and a rare moment of clarity for Mr. Mike Pence. Actually, he's been kind of a rock star as far as this committee goes. From Fox News, Mike Pence says DOJ shouldn't bring charges against Trump after January 6 hearings conclude. That's right, because we don't use the DOJ to go after our political enemies. And you are treading on some very, very thin ice by doing this, Democrats. From Joshua Q. Nelson, former Vice President Pence said on Monday that the DOJ should not bring any charges against President Trump related to the January 6 Selfie Fest. How many times did Adam Schiff say there was evidence of collusion with Russia? 2.5 years, we listened to Schiff talk about evidence that he had seen that was never there, Pence told America's Newsroom host Dana Perino and Bill Hemmer. Pencil-neck Schiff said Sunday that he believes the evidence is there to pursue a criminal case against Trump. Well, he's been, again, saying that since 2015. Congress has no formal role in the Justice Department's decisions, and they can make recommendations today, Pence responded, adding the committee has a partisan taint that has led too many Americans ignoring the hearings. But when it comes to the DOJ's decision about bringing charges in the future, I would hope that they would not bring charges against the former president, as I wrote in my book that nobody's going to read. I think the president's actions and words on January 6th were reckless. But I don't know that it's criminal to take bad advice from lawyers, and so I hope the Justice Department is careful. Hours after Pence's remarks, the House January 6th committee announced it will issue referrals to the Justice Department recommending former President Trump be criminally prosecuted. The first referral recommended by the committee is for obstruction of official proceeding. Again, the blanket charge. The committee will also refer Trump to the DOJ for conspiracy to defraud the federal government, making a false statement, and inciting, assisting, or aiding or comforting an insurrection. The broadest definition possible. In what is expected to be the final meeting on Monday, the House Unselect Committee to investigate the selfie fest said it will formally ask the DOJ, Please, Merrick Garland, make it so he can't run for president again. Yes, formally asked the DOJ to pursue the charges after a nearly 18-month selectively edited Hollywood-style video into the former president's involvement in the activities that led to the breach on January 6, 2021. A police officer walking up and opening up the doors. The breach. So, anybody on the YouTube side want to take care of that for me? Actually, I don't see it on the YouTube side. They must have found a way to get rid of that already. Alright, let's grab one from our friends at NPR, because we actually have the executive summary over here on the January 6th committee's final report. And remember, they were able to come and get this because of donations from you. That's right, it's not your money, comrade, it is our money. So make sure you hit that donate button, because even your taxpayer subsidies are not enough to keep NPR afloat. And you need to get them our money, comrade, to show them that the evil Donald Trump cannot be trusted. So, NPR, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. Also, let's actually get the right display up here. Completely forgot that I don't have the chat one up. Alright, this is from NPR staff. How long is this? 154 pages. So, by the way, we're not going to be reading 154 pages, but I'm going to read this myself, but I will also make this available in the Discord. The House January 6th Committee has released some introductory material from its final report on the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The investigation dove into the scheme to keep former President Trump in power after he lost the 2020 presidential election to President Biden in an evil manner. So let's go ahead and get that into the Discord. Whoops, we don't want that. We want that. And in general chat. And the PDF is in that article that I just dropped in there, so if you guys want to go and read that, there are 154 pages on it. A little bit of talk about this from NBC as well. And they're showing the same PDF without any more news, so let's move on to a back-to-back pair from The Hill. Now, as obvious, with the changing of the tide and the desperate attempt to keep the changing of the majorities in the House, they wanted to keep this going for many, many years because they don't want the investigation to stop with 2 years to go before the election. But reading now from The Hill, House Republicans planning response to January 6 panel report. GOP rep says from Brad Dress. House Republicans are preparing to rebut the House Unselect Committee's investigation into the January 6 Selfie Fest, which is set to release its findings later in the week, an Indiana lawmaker said. Jim Banks told Axios that his Republican colleagues will focus on security failures. Banks also told the news outlet that the January 6 panel has never dealt with the serious issues related to security at the Capitol that day. Mostly because most of us believe that they were behind the serious issues related to security at the Capitol that day. Axios noted the House Republicans investigated the response of the Capitol Police and the FBI, likely probing concerns that law enforcement was underprepared on January 6 despite clear warnings of a riot. Republicans had not yet decided when their 100-plus page GOP rebuttal will be released, Axios added. The panel of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans spent more than a year probing what led up to the January 6 Selfie Fest, saying it was important to investigate to prevent a similar incident from happening again. In a series of high-profile hearings over the summer, the panel placed former President Trump at the center of efforts to overturn the 2020 election, warning his actions led to an attempted Selfie Fest on January 6th. Over the fall, the committee formally subpoenaed Trump to testify and is expected to refer criminal charges against the former president to the DOJ ahead of the release of its final report on Wednesday. The House panel will also hold a final public hearing on Monday. What will the response be? Nobody will know because NBC, The Hill, CNN will come out and call it all racist and ignore it. Another one from The Hill. January 6 committee launches ethics complaint against McCarthy and other GOP lawmakers. From Mike Lillis. Yeah, well, they're trying to hamstring McCarthy's speakership too, which it does look like he's going to pull off, but I'm still not in favor of that. From Mike Lillis. The House committee investigating the January 6, 2021 Selfie Fest on the U.S. Capitol escalated its clash with Republican lawmakers on Monday, recommending a formal ethics inquiry into House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and other top allies of former President Trump for their refusal to cooperate with the probe. The recommendations to the House Ethics Committee mark a milder step than the criminal referrals to the Justice Department that the Select Committee made Monday against Trump and several members of the former president's inner circle for their role in the Selfie Fest. But as a political matter, the ethics complaints will shine a bright light on the actions of McCarthy and Jim Jordan, Scott Perry, and Andy Biggs, 2 of whom come up in every discussion over how evil MAGA is, just for the record. In the lead up to and the aftermath of the attack, those actions range from attending January 6 planning meetings with Trump at the White House, as Jordan had done, to having conversations with the then president in the midst of the riot, as McCarthy had done. The committee had initially requested that those 4 lawmakers, among others, appear voluntarily before the panel. When the Republicans refused, the panel issued subpoenas for their testimony in May, almost a year into the sweeping investigation into Trump's efforts to make a speech and tell people to go home peacefully, with peace in their hearts, and then get accused of trying to overthrow the U.S. government. As far as this goes, this is far in between, again, an effort to hamstring House leadership. And that's plain and simple. I mean, there's no way to look at this and see anything else at this point. They're looking for a way to come back out and hamstring this, so they can't just run out and say, hey, look at what we're doing over here. But they don't have the goods to make a criminal referral. If they had the goods to make a criminal referral, which all of their people are going to be begging for, then they would make it, but they don't. But they have to have something up there so they can run out for the entire speakership and say, credibly accused! So we're going from CNN. January 6th committee considering how to handle uncooperative GOP lawmakers, Schiff says. From Zachary Cohen. Pencil-necked Adam Schiff, member of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, said Sunday the panel is considering how to hold accountable the GOP lawmakers who defied their subpoenas. Well, we will be considering what's the appropriate remedy for members of Congress who ignore a congressional subpoena, as well as evidence that was so pertinent to our investigation and why we wanted to bring them in, the California Democrat told CNN's Jake Tapper on State of the Union. That will be something we'll be considering tomorrow, Schiff added, noting the panel has weighed whether it is better to criminally refer members of Congress to other parts of the federal government, or if Congress should police its own. Such congressional mechanisms could include censure and referrals to the House Ethics Committee. 5 Republicans had been subpoenaed by the January 6 panel: McCarthy, Jordan, Mo Brooks of Alabama, Andy Biggs, and Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. The Select Committee is set to hold its final public hearing on Monday and release its full report on Wednesday. The panel is expected to announce it will refer these criminal charges. Yeah, we saw that. But again, it's not about trying to actually get an ethics complaint in there. It's about hamstringing them. And again, saying, credibly accused. It's read from the Daily Wire. So this is what they want you paying attention to. We got him this time. It's this time, as Grant said on the YouTube side, I think. The walls are closing in. They've got him this time. They're really going to get him this time. But what they don't want you paying attention to is the fact that it does look like that we might actually have a showdown in Arizona. Now, with this being said, I don't believe for a second that there is a possibility that Kari Lake is allowed to win the governorship of Arizona. That's just not going to happen. You know it, and I know it, and everybody who's looking at this knows this. They judge shopped carefully. A lot of this is going to go away without standing, but at least we're actually going to hear something out of this time. But let's read from the Daily Wire. Kari Lake scores legal win in Maricopa County, from Amanda Prestigiacomo. Kari Lake, who is contesting an election defeat against Katie Hobbs, scored a legal win in Maricopa on Thursday when a court granted Lake's request to have some ballots inspected within the county from Election Day. Maricopa, the most populous in the state, had notable problems during the November 8th election, including printer and tabulation machine-related issues in at least 70 of the county's 223 polling locations. Lake claims there were tabulator breakdowns at over 59% of the voting centers within the county on Election Day. The Maricopa Superior Court of Arizona on Thursday advanced Lake's request to inspect 50 randomly selected Election Day cast and spoil marked ballot-on-demand printed ballots from 6 county voting centers, according to the Daily Caller. Another 50 early cast ballots from 6 separate county batches will be inspected as well. On Election Day, thousands of Republican voters were disenfranchised as a result of Maricopa's election officials' misconduct in connection with the widespread tabulator or printer failures at 59% of the 223 vote centers in Maricopa, the suit from Lake alleges. Why are there so many vote centers in Maricopa? I mean, Phoenix doesn't seem like it's really that big. I don't think there are that many vote centers in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee seems a hell of a lot bigger than Maricopa. The Republican last month filed suit against Maricopa County officials, the Daily Wire reported. The filing today was basically just a way for the courts to pressure Maricopa into giving us public records that we've been asking for, Lake said at the time. The Republicans also blasted county officials over the treatment of Election Day voters, which included those printer issues and 3-hour lines. We cannot allow an election like this to stand, the GOP candidate asserted. The RNC and the Arizona AG candidate Abe Hamadeh, a day before Lake's November suit against county officials, filed a suit in the state superior court in Maricopa. alleging a host of errors and inaccuracies during the 2022 election process, the Daily Wire reported. Apologize for that, I lost my place. I scrolled too far and I lost my place. Pervasive errors by our election officials resulted in the disenfranchisement of countless Arizonans who had their voices silenced. Hamada said in a statement, Arizonans deserve to have an election system that is transparent and fair. And right now, we have neither. Today's challenge is the only way to provide accountability and restore confidence in our broken election system. In a press release, Hamada said the 25-page complaint details a host of errors surrounding the admin in the November 2022 general election concerning alleged election board misconduct. Wow, I can really read today, you guys. The tallying of unlawful ballots and the erroneous counting of votes. So they actually get to look into this here, and I believe today is when all of this is going to be starting here. From Axios, Arizona judge dismisses Mark Fincham's lawsuit seeking new election. From Sareen Habashian, yeah, I didn't think they were going to redo the election. As much as it seems like there were a number of voters who were disenfranchised and possibly their votes not being counted because they got into box 3, I never really sat under any delusion that there was going to be a new election. Let's see what Sareen Habeshian has to say. An Arizona judge on Friday dismissed a lawsuit from Mark Fincham, a Republican who ran for Arizona Secretary of State and lost and is seeking a new election. Maricopa Superior Court Judge Melissa Julian dismissed the suit against Governor-elect and current Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs and Fincham's Democratic opponent Adrian Fontes, confirming Fontes' win. None of these alleged acts constitutes misconduct sufficient to survive dismissal, the judge wrote. Fincham, and this is Axios, so keep in mind this is a far left-wing publication. Fincham, an election denier, filed the lawsuit this month and requested an election redo. And again, I remind you of all the election deniers that have existed in every race that a Republican has won, up until this one. He and his legal team claimed Hobbs engaged in misconduct by failing to recuse herself to certify ballot tabulation machines and flagging alleged misinformation posted on Fincham's Twitter account that resulted in a suspension from the social media platform per court documents. Fincham's Twitter account has since been reinstated. Fincham, along with Kari Lake, who also lost her race for Arizona governor, did not concede their races, instead insinuated fraud is the reason they lost. Fincham did not immediately respond to Axios' request for comment. Well, you called him an election denier, so, I mean, if you reached out to me after calling me an election denier for comment on something, I would probably tell you to go French yourself too. From ABC 15 out of Arizona, judge grants Kari Lake's request to inspect ballots. Which again, I'm not sure what they think that they're going to find, but clearly they have a plan of some sort. From ABC15.com staff. A judge has granted Kari Lake's request to inspect various ballots counted in Arizona's 2022 election. The ruling states that a representative chosen by Lake will be given the opportunity to inspect the following: 50 randomly selected ballot-on-demand ballots cast on Election Day from 6 Maricopa County vote centers chosen by her representative. 50 randomly selected early ballots cast in the 2022 general election from 6 separate Maricopa County batches chosen by her representative. 50 randomly selected BOD printed ballots that were marked spoiled on Election Day from 6 separate Maricopa County vote centers chosen by her representative. The judge denied Lake's request to copy and photograph ballots. Which, I mean, that's fair. Because as far as I know, there is private information with that. I'm not opposed to that part of this. The lawsuit filed by Lake alleges that hundreds of thousands of illegal ballots infected by the election in Maricopa, many of which being in the form of mail-in ballots. Lake also claims that as many as 29,257 Republican voters were disenfranchised on Election Day as a result of tabulator or printer failures experienced at a polling location on Election Day. Again, this is the ruling, by the way, and we will go ahead and drop this also in the Discord because it's got documentation. But we'll actually go through this because, well, we've got the Kari Lake lawsuit that's 70 pages, but this is 3 pages. So let me drop this in the Discord for you so we can see the PDF. And let's look at what is on the 3-pager. Superior Court of Arizona, Maricopa. Honorable Peter A. Thompson, Clerk of Court. The Felix Deputy. Kari Lake versus Katie Hobbs. Plaintiff Kari Lake's verified petition to inspect ballots pursuant to ARS Code 16677B was conditionally granted in part by order of the court filed on December 15, 2022. Specifically, subject to the conditions described in that order, granted plaintiff the opportunity to inspect the following: 50 randomly selected ballot-on-demand printed ballots cast on Election Day from 6 vote centers, which that's what the BOD is. We already read what the other 3 are. Plaintiff filed a motion to clarify, which she further requested the following as to the ballot inspection granted in the order as clarified in her reply: that her representative be allowed to copy and photograph inspected ballots, and that for sample 1, Maricopa County make available for random selection tabulator rejected BOD printed ballots that were left by voters in door 3 at the vote center to be counted later. Door 3 ballots. The county defendants filed a response to the motion, objecting to any copying or photographing of ballots and requesting advance notice of plaintiff selected vote centers from which to draw the ballot samples. Nor is surprise a consideration or form of relief contemplated by Arizona Code 16677. Defendant Katie Hobbs, in her capacities as Secretary of State and Governor-elect, joined a portion of the county defendants' response objecting to the copying or photographing of ballots, and a plaintiff filed a reply. The court has considered the motion to clarify the response and reply. So, TLDR on this. Yes, they're going to be able to go back and inspect a smattering of ballots. They're not going to be able to sit back and inspect all of them. I would like to see actually a hand recount on this one. I really would. I also, and if anybody who's in the chat or watching back, because I don't think we've pulled our complete audience back yet from when we were in a morning show, if anybody has any information as to how this was all handled as far as Brian Kemp goes, you can get that to me by comment, by the Discord, or by Twitter DM as well. My DMs are open, and I do go back and I check the spam folder every once in a while, so I will see this off this, because I did point out the fact that I did think it was wrong that Brian Kemp certified his own election, and we should be talking about that. But it's come to my attention that he actually might not have. There's been a rumor, and again, I can't confirm this right now, that he actually stepped down from his position before the certification. He oversaw the election, obviously, like Hobbs did, but he didn't do his own certification like Hobbs did. I don't know if that's true or not, but that does change the argument that went along with this, and why Hobbs was able to certify her own election, which I do not agree with. That is a practice that needs to stop. On this particular headline here, did Lake go too far? That's actually a possibility. From the Hill, Kari Lake calls for imprisoning Maricopa County election officials. From Zach Schoenfield. Again, we don't use the DOJ to go after our political enemies. And realistically, an election official who, even somebody who specifically went on an effort to deny Kari Lake the victory, would still be a political enemy. don't particularly agree with this point. Now, I don't know if it's where is everybody tonight Christmas shopping. I think a lot of this is the fact that, again, we're looking at a situation where we didn't quite get the audience back because of the time change. Because there is a lot more competition in this one. So I've got to make myself a better show, is all that I have to do. Which means I'm probably going to be taking Mr. Fanning up on his offer for his acoustic panels. And I think I'm actually going to move my desk over there, move the living room back over here. And then, of course, the harder work on trying to make sure that I get my new studio. This is from Zach Schoenfield. And The Hill, of course, has to put their own editorial. This is, wow, can I talk tonight or what? I need more sleep, you guys. This is contested, so this is not defeated Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate. This is still gubernatorial candidate because the results are still up in the air at this point. Officially, Katie Hobbs has not won yet, in spite of the fact that she certified her own election. Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake called for Maricopa election officials to be locked up on Sunday as Lake gears up to contest her opponent's certified victory in court hearings this week. Speaking to a crowd of young conservatives at TPUSA's America Fest, Lake discussed her election contest at length, repeating unproven. Jeez. The editorialization is bad in this one, and I mean, The Hill is a left-wing publication, but they typically temper it. It's bad this time. Unproven allegations about both 2020 and Katie Hobbs' victory last month. Get the fuck out of here. Go away. Go away! Okay, I guess we're gonna look at the AVG advertisement. These people are crooks. They need to be locked up, Lake said of Maricopa County election officials after listing off a series of largely disproven claims about election fraud. Maricopa County, Arizona's most populous jurisdiction that includes Phoenix, has become an epicenter for allegations of voter disenfranchisement after some election day vote centers experienced printer malfunctions. And that just happened to be in Maricopa County, which was in question in 2020 as well. Election officials acknowledged the issues and insisted affected voters could use one of multiple backup options. But Lake and others in the GOP have claimed the issues effectively amounted to voter disenfranchisement, noting that election day ballots in the state favor Republicans. Lake on Sunday compared her challenge to the Founding Fathers fighting against British tyranny, repeatedly naming Benjamin Franklin and others as she said, their blood is coursing through our veins. They were fed up with tyrants. They weren't going to take it anymore, Lake said. I think that we're right here, right now, aren't we? Maricopa and Hobbs, in both her capacities as Secretary of State and the gubernatorial candidate, asked a judge to dismiss Lake's election challenge. Well, I mean, anytime you're in a lawsuit, that's the first thing you do is ask to dismiss. Trust me, if I'd have known about the identity theft before it got all the way through the courts, I would have asked for a dismissal too. Of course, I probably, if I had known about it before it got through the courts, I'd handle it completely differently anyway. Oral arguments in the motion are set for Monday, and the two-day trial is scheduled for later this week if the case moves forward. Lake at Sunday's event said she wasn't sure how the judge would rule on the dismissal motion, asking the crowd to pray for him. We've seen judges dismiss cases. I don't want you to get discouraged, Lake told the crowd. It would happen. We're going to kick this right up to the Supreme Court, and I will not stop fighting. Among other allegations, Lake said on Sunday claimed that 300,000 ballots in Maricopa were tabulated without proper chain of custody paperwork, as she alleged in court, calling county election officials magicians who made ballots randomly appear. Well, we will see. Get some popcorn off of this, but a lot of this is going to be swallowed up by the news about the Donald, because, well, that's what happens. He does kind of suck the air out of the room. Let's talk McCarthy. I got a pair back-to-back from CNN, one written and one video. From CNN, Trump calls on his supporters to stand down on McCarthy opposition. From Greg Clary. Trump has weighed in on the contentious battle confronting GOP leader Kevin McCarthy in his bid to be the chamber's next speaker, with the former president calling on his supporters in Congress to halt their opposition tactics against McCarthy and stop playing a very dangerous game. Look, okay, I think Kevin has worked very hard. Which is false. I think he deserves a shot, Trump said on Friday in an interview with Breitbart News. Hopefully, he's going to be very strong, be very good, and he's going to do what everybody wants. The former president cited the scenario from 2015 when then House Speaker John Boehner resigned after clashes with conservative GOP hardliners and then was replaced by Paul Ryan. It's a very dangerous game. Some bad things would happen. Look, okay, we had Boehner. Boehner was the worst. He was a strange person, but we ended up with Paul Ryan, who's 10 times worse. Paul was an incompetent speaker. Fact check true. I think he goes down as the worst speaker in history. Not even close. Not even close. He doesn't even go down as the worst speaker in my lifetime. Gingrich was worse than that. McCarthy is in a fight for the speakership with 5 hardline Republicans opposing him, with House Republicans holding 222 seats in the next Congress. Such opposition would deny him the 218 votes he'd need to be elected speaker. And I am curious, and I do have to look into this. I've been talking about this for a while, but I do want to see what actually happens if they don't get the 218 votes. What actually does happen if nobody gets the votes? Because Nancy doesn't have the votes. Hakeem doesn't have the votes. McCarthy doesn't have the votes. So what happens at that point? McCarthy has negotiated behind closed doors over chamber rules that his detractors want to weaken the speakership, including allowing individual member to call for a vote to oust the speaker. That's something that the California Republican has resisted so far. Well, it should be there. That absolutely should be there. And there's going to be a call every single day from a Democrat to have McCarthy ousted. But they're not going to have the votes for it. McCarthy and Trump had a brief falling out following the selfie fest, with McCarthy even suggesting on a private phone call that was recorded that Trump should resign, but the two quickly made amends, with McCarthy traveling to meet Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida just a few weeks later. In his interview with Breitbart, Trump did not name those lawmakers who opposed McCarthy's speakership, but said he is friendly with many of them and they are supporters of his. Well, let's listen to what it is that he had to say. So we've got video from CNN again, and let's listen. Some of this is going to have CNN panelists into this as well.
Listen to a kind of back and forth between one lawmaker who is pushing for this and another who's saying, at the end of the day, this is all just going to cause chaos.
There's no CEO in the country that doesn't have accountability. There's nobody that goes to work every day that doesn't have accountability. The country can't wait 2 years for an accountability.
You can't govern with a gun to your head, you know, and that's what they're asking for. You can scream the word accountability all you want, which is what they do, and stand on their moral high horse, but in the end, it is just a path to chaos, not stability.
I do wonder, though, I mean, at the end of the day, will even giving this to the Freedom Caucusers secure the votes for McCarthy?
I just want to take a step back. Let's say that McCarthy does become Speaker. He can't even get his caucus together right now to elect him Speaker. How are they going to legislate? How are they going to do anything next year if this vote is this problematic? You saw the Wall Street Journal editorializing on this.
The reality is that they weren't planning on legislating
anyway.
That is
at all.
So I think that that's part of the challenge.
No, but the question was, like, what investigations would they put forward focus on during the next 2 years? Would it be on Hunter Biden? Would it be on the DHS secretary? Would it be on January 6th? And that is, for McCarthy, that's been the real incentive he can dangle in front of dissenters and people who are not sold on him yet. But it doesn't seem to have sold enough people at this point in time.
He's already committed to those things.
Right.
And those things that you listed are real, and he's already done it. Like,
and he also has
running out
the
of bullets.
support. He also has the support of former President Trump, who told Breitbart on Friday, "Look, I think this. Kevin has worked very hard. It's been exhausting. If you think he's been all over, I think he deserves a shot. Hopefully, he's going to be very strong and going to be very good, and he's going to do what everybody wants," which is maybe a great endorsement, but maybe also a very tepid endorsement.
Yeah, and look, if Donald Trump, in calling some of these members, can't convince them to drop their objections to Kevin McCarthy, then, like, what's going to do it, you know? And I think that shows the extent to which these 5 members in particular, who are in this, quote, never Kevin group, are doing this because they see the political incentives in their districts and they think it elevates them as stars on the far right. But to the question of what can Kevin McCarthy do, there's been this question since the midterm elections, since he secured this narrower than expected majority of, is this going to, who is this going to empower? And so far, even though the moderates are kind of stepping up a little bit here, we're still seeing that the Freedom Caucus, the far right folks in that caucus, are the ones who are still holding the cards. And that's because that's always where the incentives are in a House Republican caucus, and we're seeing that continuing.
So I thought that was going to be Trump talking about McCarthy, but it is the people discussing this, and people who are going to call McCarthy evil, Nazi, racist, bigot, etc., no matter what it is that he does. And that is something to keep in mind as we look into this, is that no matter what he does, McCarthy is never going to be good enough for these people. End of story. There is no more to the story. That's going to be the end of it. But with that being said, there are people that are talking about the fact that this is a poison pill for McCarthy, which I think it is. And as the CNN panel pointed out, now he's got the support of former President Trump, which it shouldn't be. But that vote's going to be coming up in about 3 weeks, so we'll see what happens with that. Matt Gaetz jabs Trump over McCarthy support. HR was not always his best thing, from Brad Dress. Matt Gaetz voiced clear disagreement with former President Trump after he supported House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy as the next speaker, saying Trump has not chosen the best people to work for him in the past. I bet that confused the MSDNC panel, because according to them, Matt Gaetz just does whatever Trump tells him to do. HR was not already his best thing, Gaetz told the conservative network Real America's Voice on Monday at a TPUSA conference in Phoenix. Gaetz added that Trump chose a parade of horribles to serve him in his admin. So maybe we ought to have a choice come out of the House that represents the conservative center of our caucus, he said. I'll be for Trump for president, but I will not follow him in supporting Kevin McCarthy for speaker, which you don't have to. Gaetz has joined a small band of far-right GOP lawmakers voicing discontent with McCarthy after Republicans underperformed in the midterm elections and captured a razor-thin majority in the House. Which, by the way, Ronna McDaniel Romney needs to resign. Plain and simple, because she has lost every election since 2016. Trump endorsed McCarthy for the speakership and called on House Republicans last week to back him for the leadership post. But again, the thing with Gaetz is, that's the magic of it. I may not vote. If Donald Trump is the nominee, there's a good chance that I leave the top line blank in 2024. I like the tax cuts a lot. I like the small business exemptions a lot. I liked all of the legislation that sought at the time to make business easier for the little guy. I liked all of that. But realistically, he can't really get past he can't really get past the 2020 election. And I still can't write this. I can't square the circle of the spending. I can't. The tax cuts were awesome, but you need to stop the spending that went along with it, including some of the excessive stimulus checks that we got and the student loan pause. I am still against that. Again, even though I benefited from it, I'm still against that. But I can say this, support for Trump does not mean support for everybody in the Republican Party. I mean, look at how we've looked at people like Paul Ryan, and I'm not a Republican. I never have been. Briefly, I flirted with the idea, but kind of started to realize as people were starting to talk about warmongering that it still was not for me. When I heard a neocon say, "We need a war," that was it for me. But in Gates's case, and that's the other thing that I say, is don't cut off your nose to spite your face, either. Kevin McCarthy would still be in a better position than Nancy Pelosi. Do keep that in mind. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do keep that in mind. Chip Roy, if GOP leaders had Dems blank check in $1.7 trillion spending bill, McConnell and GOP will own the border crisis. They already do. From John Rigolizzo for the Daily Wire. Chip Roy said Republicans would take ownership of President Biden's border crisis if GOP leaders hand Democrats a blank check and back an omnibus spending bill. Fact check, they're going to. Appearing on Fox News Sunday, Roy blasted the prospect that Republicans would pass a $1.7 trillion proposal to fund the government through September 2023. Roy said the bill would actually make the flood of unlawful crossings worse, claiming the funding would be used to process more migrants instead of securing the border. He specifically called out Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. "We've been running on this being the Biden border crisis," Roy told host Shannon Bream. "This, the McConnell Republican border crisis, if we give them more money this week without demanding that they secure the border and do more bloated spending and give the DHS money with a blank check." Lloyd Austin is correct that we should have an appropriations process where we fund our men and women in uniform without being a continuing resolution, Roy said. However, that can't be an excuse for us to give blank checks to the Democrats. $50 billion in non-defense discretionary money that's going to go fund an FBI that labeled parents as domestic terrorists, money that's going to a DHS that doesn't secure the homeland, money that's going to go to all the woke policies at the Department of Defense, he continued. Republicans are about to literally give Biden admin a blank check, so their opening shots after having their rear ends handed to them in November are to redefine marriage and stomp on religious liberty, pass a $1.7 trillion bloated spending bill that won't allow us to secure the border, and then wonder why Republicans across the country are mad at them. Well, I don't wonder it. And as much as I don't usually back Chip Roy, he's right on this one. My big pet project with federal government has been, since I started coming to a late age of reason, stop the spending. Slow down the spending, stop the spending. It's the spending that's causing the problems, not the taxes. We can lower those too, but we gotta stop the spending. Speaking of the border, from the Hill, White House, end of Title 42 doesn't mean border is open. From Alex Gangitano. The White House on Monday stressed that the southern border is not open despite the end of Title 42 immigration policy expected in the coming days. The Trump-era border management policy is expected to be repealed on Wednesday following a ruling from a federal judge. The policy had allowed officials to block migrants from seeking asylum claims in the U.S. during the Pox pandemic due to the public health emergency. Its ending has spurred fears of a worsening crisis. The fact that the removal of Title 42 is happening in just a day or two doesn't mean that the border is open, White House Press Secretary Token Diversity Hire told reporters, adding that the U.S. will move to Title 8, which is just the regular order that allows asylum applications. I think it would be wrong that the border is open. It's not open, Peter. And I just want to be very clear about that. She added. The White House is asking Congress for $3.5 billion in funding to help with the situation at the southern border. Diversity Hire said that Republicans should grant the funding if they care about the crisis, arguing that if they truly want to assist, instead of doing political ploys like they have been in several months, they will adhere to the funding request. And we go right back to the original role of the Republicans of do what the Democrats tell you, or you're a racist. Joe Manchin said on Sunday he believes Biden will ask for the extension of Title 42 after he joined a bipartisan letter asking Biden to extend the policy. When he asked about Manchin's comments, Diversity Hire said the White House intends to comply with the court order. And again, the thing with Title 42 is it seems to go in the opposite direction of the political party that's talking about it, in either way. Republicans want Title 42 to go on forever, in spite of the fact that they insist to you that the Pox is over and Title 42 is a COVID era policy, specifically attributing itself to COVID. Whereas on the other end of it, Democrats say that the Pox is going to be here forever and it's going to be the worst in election years. So it's going to be the very worst in even-numbered years. But we've got to do away with that racist Title 42 and just let the people come in and seek asylum wherever they want. But some news from the Supreme Court. From Axios, Supreme Court temporarily halts end of Title 42 immigration policy. From Shauna Chen. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts on Monday temporarily halted the end of a Title 42 policy that allows the U.S. to expel migrants at the southern border without the chance for asylum. Roberts issued the admin stay pending the High Court's decision on whether to take up the case after a coalition of Republican-led states earlier Monday asked it to intervene. An appeals court had denied the state's bid to retain the controversial policy last week. It is unclear how long the administrative stay will remain in place. The Trump-era policy had been set to expire on Wednesday. Monday's decision is procedural and does not indicate how the court will ultimately rule on the request for an emergency stay. Aaron Reichlin-Melnick, policy director at the American Immigration Council, told Axios' Steph Knight. Texas and other states are insisting the court leave Title 42 in place. Today's order is a step in that direction, Greg Abbott tweeted. This helps prevent illegal immigration. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement Monday evening that the Title 42 order would remain in effect as required by the stay. While this stage of litigation proceeds, we will continue our preparations to manage the border in a safe, orderly, and humane way when the Title 42 public health order lifts. We urge Congress to use this time to provide the funds we have requested for border security and management and advance the comprehensive immigration measures President Biden proposed on his first day in office, the DHS statement noted. So, we will see what happens with this. El Paso getting in the news with immigration. El Paso mayor declares state of emergency in response to growing migrant crisis. And El Paso is a pretty blue area, too. From Adam Powell. El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser has declared a state of emergency in response to the worsening migrant crisis, which has left scores sleeping on the streets in recent days. Though Leeser has long resisted issuing a state of emergency declaration, he said Saturday the move would allow the city to tap into much-needed additional resources, which will only become more necessary with the December 21st end to Title 42 expulsions. Well, not anymore. Leeser stated the sight of people on downtown streets with temperatures dipping below freezing was the catalyst for the decision in the works on Friday night. Which means, of course, now that he has state of emergency, now he can appropriate private property to go find a place to put these people up. That's not the way we want to treat people, Leeser said during a news conference on Saturday evening. He added the increase would be incredible after Wednesday when daily apprehensions and street. I just lost my place again. Apprehensions and street releases could rise as high as $6,000 per day. 6,000 people per day. Wow. I, again, really need more sleep. El Paso Deputy City Manager Mario De Agostino said the state of emergency declaration would give the city more flexibility in operating larger sheltering operations and provide additional transportation for arriving asylum seekers. The city has requested additional personnel for feeding and housing operations, additional busing operations, and state law enforcement. It is for the safety of themselves, community members, and everyone involved, De Agostino said. As numbers continue to ramp up, De Agostino said additional state resources will be crucial to ensure enough space to shelter those who cannot get out of town immediately. Apparently we cannot see the declaration of disaster. Oh, I know, because I archived it, that's why. I archived it, which means that that got cut out, but... And I mean, it's probably hard for, even if your reason is to appropriate private property to go put people up in hotels while you're in there. This is devastating for the narrative that there is no problem on the border. All right, Martha Raddatz blames border crisis on GOP, falsely claims Biden never told migrants to come, which we can watch. ABC News host Martha Raddatz falsely claimed during a segment that aired on Sunday that President Biden never encouraged migrants to come to the U.S. in recent years, as she appeared to pin the border crisis on Republicans. Because why not? Raddatz made the remarks during an interview on This Week with Texas GOP Governor Greg Abbott while she toured the U.S.-Mexico border. You talk about the border wall, you talk about open borders. I don't think I've ever heard President Biden say we have an open border. Come on over, she claimed. But people I've heard say it are you, the former president, Trump, our Ron DeSantis. That message reverberates in Mexico and beyond. So they do get the message that it's an open border, and smugglers use all kinds of those statements. Yeah, but those people want to close the border. I mean, if it wasn't open, then they'd get to the border and say, ese. We can't get over that, man. I know. Let's go get hammered in Juarez. While on the presidential campaign in 2019, Biden told migrants, "You should come to the U.S." Let's listen to Raddatz.
You talk about the border wall, you talk about open borders. I don't think I've ever heard President Biden say, "We have an open border, come on over." But people I have heard say it are you, our former President Trump, or Ron DeSantis. That message reverberates in Mexico and beyond. So they do get the message that it is an open border, and smugglers use all those kinds of statements.
It was known from the time that Joe Biden got elected that Joe Biden supported open borders. It is known by the cartels who have sophisticated information whether or not the Biden administration is going to enforce the immigration laws or not is known across the world, but most importantly, known among the cartels.
And how do you play into that? What can you do better?
So we have every level of government doing everything we can to prevent people from coming into the country illegally, or repelling them, or arresting them and putting them behind bars.
Yeah, no. Good try, Raditz, but you don't have it. Speaking of people doing stupid things, we've got a host of videos from Mr. Biden. So we're just going to go right down them. Joe Biden spews anti-Irish slur, confuses wife's father for grandfather, greatly exaggerates Iraq trips, tells implausible story of uncle awarded Purple Heart in gaffe-riddled speech. We're just going to go right to the video on this one. So, start with this one from The Blaze, Joe Biden. I may be Irish, but I'm not stupid.
I may be Irish, but I'm not stupid. I married Dominic Giacoppa's daughter, so, I got a little Italian in me now,
Jill's mother is Bonnie Jean Godfrey, who is of English and Scottish descent. Jill's grandmother, Mabel Sarah Blazer, is of German descent. So, whoops. Some reactions on Twitter declared Biden's comments about Irish to be demeaning. Yeah, you think? Daily Signal reporter Mary Margaret Olahan decried Biden's remarks as a hate crime against Irish people. Yeah, you think?
I may be Irish,
Same clip.
but I'm not stupid. I married Dominic Giacoppa's daughter.
Also during Friday's speech, Biden made a gaffe or outright lied about how his uncle received a prestigious Purple Heart Award. However, Biden's father, Joseph R. Biden Sr., died on September 2nd. Joe Biden officially became the vice president on January 20th, 2009. Frank Biden died in 1999. But let's listen.
My dad, when I got elected vice president, he said, Joey, Uncle Frank fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He was not feeling very well now, not because of the Battle of the Bulge, but he said, and he won the Purple Heart. And he never received it. He never got it. Do you think you could help him get it? We'll surprise him.
This is painful to
So we got him
listen
the
to.
Purple Heart. He had won it in the Battle of the Bulge. And I remember he came over to the house, and I came out, and he said, present it to him. Okay, we had the family there. I said, Uncle Frank, you won this, and I went to peace. He said, I don't want the damn thing. No, I'm serious. He said, I don't want it. I said, what's the matter, Uncle Frank? You earned it. He said, yeah, but the others died. The others died. I lived. I don't want it.
And that uncle died in 1999. Biden also greatly exaggerated how many times he visited Iraq and Afghanistan. Biden claimed, and I think I've been in and out, not as a combatant, but in and out of Afghanistan and Iraq. These areas 39 times. Not as president, only twice as president. He's never been to either country as president.
And I think that there's I've been in and out, not as obviously combatant, but in and out of Afghanistan, Iraq, and these areas 38, 39 times. Not as president, only twice as president, but from the time I was a senator, but particularly when I was vice president.
Yeah, no, he hadn't been there. So, well, 81 million votes, folks. Let's talk Elon news, because we've got a slew of this, and we are running up on the clock. From Variety, there's one that we don't read from very often here. Elon Musk temporarily suspended Washington Post Taylor Lorenz for prior doxing action, but she denies that she doxed anyone. Yeah, you have numerous times, Taylor. From Todd Spangler. Update 12/18, 10:05 a.m. Taylor Lorenz's Twitter account has been restored. Previously, Washington Post tech columnist Taylor Lorenz said her Twitter account was suspended on Saturday after she tweeted a request for comment at Elon Musk, the tech mogul who is the social network's new owner, on a story she was working on. Lorenz's Twitter account, which she activated in 2010, had more than 340,000 followers before it was suspended. Earlier tonight, Elon suspended my Twitter account, she wrote on her Substack. I received zero communication from the company on why it was suspended or what terms I violated. Super crazy, Elon seems to be banning anyone who disagreed with him. Lorenz says in a TikTok video she shared on Saturday evening, Lorenz had been tweeting from an alternate Twitter account at No Dreams of Labor before that was also banned. On Sunday at 6:23 a.m. Pacific Time, Musk tweeted about Lorenz's account on Twitter. Temp suspension due to prior doxing action by this account will be lifted shortly. Lorenz told Variety she's never doxed anyone on Twitter or anywhere else, and said that Twitter has never contacted her about any supposed violations of its anti-doxing rules. After the Washington Post published an April 2022 story, she wrote about the anti-LGBTQ account Libs of TikTok. Lorenz was accused of doxing the creator of anti-LGBTQIRAMIGIXTVYAPTOR sometimes Y accounts Libs of TikTok by revealing her identity as a Brooklyn real estate agent. And I'm not going to reveal the name there, even though it's on the screen. Variety has no problem with it. In a Twitter post at the time, Lorenz defended the decision to identify as the person behind Libs of TikTok by noting that she isn't just some average woman with a social media account, but a powerful influencer operating a massively impactful right-wing media shaping discourse around LGBTQIRAMIGT APTLOMXTARUAMITAB sometimes Y rights. So she was off and she is back, and I mean it is kind of interesting to see some of these people react to the fact that they're actually getting some of the rules applied to them instead of just having free reign otherwise. And he did this with all the other suspended journalists as well. From NBC, Musk reinstates suspended journalists after Twitter poll. From Jamie Nodal. Several high-profile journalists who were suspended from Twitter on Thursday evening were reinstated early Thursday. The people have spoken, Musk tweeted. Twitter users who voted in the poll posted by Musk to reinstate the accounts which were cut off without warning. The social media platform's new owner has recently used Twitter polls for several high-profile decisions, including the reinstatement of former President Trump's account. The accounts of Ryan Mack of the New York Times, Donnie O'Sullivan of CNN, Drew Harwell of the Washington Post, Matt Binder of Mashable, Michael Lee of The Intercept, Steve Herman of Voice of America, and independent journalist Aaron Rupar, Keith Olbermann, and Tony Webster were all suspended Thursday evening. Journalist is a very, very, very loose term for these people. Musk had said the Thursday suspensions would last 7 days, but early Saturday said the accounts who doxed my location will have their suspensions lifted now. Matt Binder is back, the Mashable journalist tweeted early Saturday. Olbermann's account was reinstated later on Saturday. Lynette Lopez, a Business Insider columnist whose bio on the news site states that she conducts investigations into controversial companies, most recently Tesla, was among the suspended journalists. She told MSDNC's Alex Wagner that Twitter hadn't told her why she was suspended. Her account was remained suspended Saturday night. And the polling doesn't stop there. And again, I guess I don't really care. I would like to see some of these people actually get a 7-day, actually get a longer suspension, the way they call for most of us to be banned permanently. Not enough to, again, get them kicked out permanently, because I don't believe in kicking anybody out permanently, but enough to give them a taste of what they have been putting the rest of the world through. And it's not going to change anything either, because they believe that they're in a holy crusade. And not just trying to get rid of people who disagree with them for sour grapes. I got one from TechCrunch, and we'll actually probably skip the TMZ one because it's the same thing. This happened last night and then has already been lifted. Twitter bans posting of handles and links to Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, and more. From Ivan Mehta and Amanda Silberling. While people around the globe are watching the thrilling FIFA World Cup, Twitter decided to drop a bombshell and ban links promoting other social networks. The list currently includes Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Nostr, and Post Plus. Link in bio tools like Linktree and Link Bio are also banned. These services are commonly used by both creators and businesses. Essentially, you can't post links to your other social profiles or even type out your handle in a tweet. The Elon Musk-owned company no longer allows free promotion of certain social media platforms on Twitter. The company said that's removing all accounts created solely for the purpose of promoting other social networks. It also plans to remove links to content from above-mentioned social platforms. Elon, this ain't it. I'm going to tell you, and by the way, spoiler alert for going up in the next few minutes here after I get done with my rant here, but this is not something you should be doing, Elon. And I'm telling you that right off the bat. This ain't it. I don't personally use a Linktree. But I understand the functionality of a Linktree, why people use them. And the big reason people use them is the fact that it gives you opportunity. It gives you the ability to come back and make a promotion. And yes, there are a lot of people out there who are simply going to be doing nothing but creating on Twitter. That's what they do, is create. But there are going to be people out there who are just consuming as well. But for those of you who are creating, the ability to go out and share your creations on a platform like that, it would be the same thing as Elon Musk coming out and saying, I don't know, Jim Parsons can't post a link out to NBC or CBS, in spite of the fact that that being the network that has given him the most fame. That's the same thing. Elon, banning Linktree is not it. Now, I understand, in the other side of it, where you would take a stance to having Instagram as one of them and Facebook as one of the things on your Linktree, or have them in your bio. Those are direct competition to Twitter. But if you look at my bio, let's bring that up here for just a moment. What do you see? A year-old picture of me with a bio that says that I am an enthusiast of the 10th Amendment, trying to keep us into smaller government, and our world is dominated by the two authoritarian parties. And my YouTube, because up until I actually went on to multi-streaming, that was the project that I wanted to get the most attention on, the most eyes on. Now with that being said, of course, right now it actually would be feasible for me to use a Linktree, even though I'm probably not going to still, because that would give access to give out my YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Facebook, well, obviously not Facebook, but you get the picture, all in one place. All the places that I'm streaming to, all in one place. And I actually got nervous when I found out about this, because that was my first question is, can we still promote YouTube? Because it's like every tweet is, especially with as much as I've been working lately, every tweet is just basically promoting you to go back and check out Contemporary. So Elon, this ain't it. And I think they realized it because the Blaze coming out now. Twitter deletes new policy banning links promoting other social media networks. From Andrew Chapados. Who did take that photo, by the way? It wasn't you, Katie. Because you were... I mean, if you pan that back out, you are in that photo. Because I can actually see the outline of your hair on that. I don't remember who took that, though. Was it Mr. Zed that took that one? Or was it Britt? Actually, I think it was Jessica Green, now that I think about it. Was it? I thought it was... because I have the full photo. I'll look at that again. I thought it was panned out further than a selfie. For whatever reason. Let's see. From Andrew Chabados. Twitter has deleted a blog post outlining a new policy that banned accounts from existing solely to promote content on other social media platforms, while also barring users from linking to other social media sites. While sharing their usernames, the post is archived here. A thread from Twitter's support on the subject was also deleted. The list of prohibited platforms included Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Post, and NoStar. Interesting, the list did not include Twitter alternative Gitter, nor did it list TikTok. Yeah, it should have also, I mean, if it was going to be completely fair, it should have listed Gab, Minds, Gitter, Truth. Examples of potential violations included tweets that simply said, "Follow me" at username on Instagram, or "Check out my profile on Facebook," facebook.com/username, along with tweets that simply listed one's username on a different social media platform. NOSTR, which stands for Notes and Other Stuff Transmitted by Relays, was recently bolstered by former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, who donated approximately $245,000 worth of Bitcoin to the platform shortly after dedicating $1 million a year to the Signal app. In response to the policy, Dorsey publicly said, "Doesn't make sense." Well, we gotta do Dorsey voice for that. Doesn't make sense. In a Twitter reply to another user. So, I'm going to give a little bit of my take on this. Again, I don't use Linktree. But I do see a clear conflict of interest that would be on Twitter's part if you're using them to advertise somebody else, or a directly competing social media platform. And that's why I said, if you are going to do it, consistency would be that you do it for Gab, Minds, Gitter, Truth, Parler, etc. That would be consistency. I don't think it's a good idea. Again, for the most part, because especially with using Linktree, it's way too broad of an umbrella, and it will knock people out, and it does take away the functionality of people who create. Not just people who create videos like I do either, by the way. Like, what would be something? An Ethot with her OnlyFans and her Patreon. An Etsy creator with her Patreon and her Etsy account. An artist with 2 or 3 different portfolios in the Linktree. A cosplayer with a blog about, okay, this is how I build my cosplays, and this is places that you can get them, and also go to my Patreon. I know I said e-thoughts earlier, but regardless. But I mean, this is more than just journos coming out here and saying, hey, go follow me on Mastodon because Elon man bad. And this does nerf all functionality of Twitter as a way for creators to reach out with their audiences. Completely nerfs it. Elizabeth Warren, and I got a back-to-back pair from Daily Wire, but we are running up on the clock and we do have to go check out the Game Boys yet tonight too. But let's get to what we can. Elizabeth Warren browbeats Tesla board over Elon Musk's work with Twitter. Well, she's going to browbeat Tesla board anyway because it's a $1 billion company. From Ben Zieslav. Elizabeth Warren warned board members of Tesla that the recent acquisition of Twitter by Elon could present conflicts of interest for the electric automaker. What about the electric girl? Musk purchased the social media company in a $44 billion deal that followed months of court battles about the number of true accounts on the platform. Among other challenges posed to the company has been leftist ire over the billionaire entrepreneur's claims to prioritize freedom of speech and publicize the censorious actions from former management. Warren told Tesla chair Robin Denholm in a letter that the board has a responsibility to ensure Musk fulfills his legal obligation to act in the best interests of Tesla and all its shareholders, not just himself. Husband, would you like a beer? As well as guarantee that he does not treat the company as a private plaything. She asked about specific oversight measures the board members have created to determine whether Musk is adequately leading the automaker. Musk's acquisition of Twitter and his simultaneous management of both Twitter and Tesla raised significant legal questions about conflicts of interest, compliance with labor laws, and misappropriation of corporate resources. Yeah, because it's a big problem because they lost their latte machines in the office and some of them got laid off. Says a person who was a filthy capitalist up until it stopped being stylish to be so. Another one from the Daily Wire. The one that we want to get to. Breaking: Twitter users vote to remove Elon Musk as the head of the company. From Ryan Saavedra. I haven't even looked to see if he stepped down or not. Let's look at that quick. No, it does not appear that it has stepped down yet. But reading from the Daily Wire, from Ryan Saavedra, Twitter strongly voted for CEO Elon Musk to step down as the head of the company in a poll that he posted on his account late Sunday afternoon. Musk posted the poll after a botched policy rollout earlier in the day, which prohibited users from promoting rival social media platforms, led to backlash on Twitter. The ban hammer was hit. I went after that one too. Should I step down as head of Twitter? Musk tweeted, I will abide by the results of the poll. The poll concluded with 17,502,391 accounts voting. I was one of them, by the way. The results were 57.5% to remove Musk and 42.5% for voting for him to remain in control. The poll came after the company announced earlier in the day that it would temporarily suspend anyone who promoted their social media accounts on other platforms. Which we read about that. So, I want to talk about this for just a moment. Because I think this is less of Elon Man getting panned by his audience over on Twitter. And I think this is more of Elon Man never actually wanting to be the CEO of Twitter. Now, hear me out on this, because this is important. With Elon Man bad, the one thing that we have to remember about this is the fact that, well, Elon Man bad. They were going to vote and bot and promote and do anything that they could to come and get this. And Elon knows this. He knows this full well, especially after the backlash that he got for the Linktree rollout. But I don't believe that Elon wanted to be the CEO. He wanted to be the owner, obviously, but I don't believe he wanted to be the CEO long term. He wants to come in, shake things up, get some attention, and get some people frothing at the mouth on the site. But he does have a lot on his plate with SpaceX and Tesla. He has a ton on his plate for that already, just with those two companies. And this looks to me like this was justification for him just specifically not being the CEO of Twitter anymore, which he already wanted to step down from. Hear me out. He came in, there was nobody in the company that knew about the workings of the company that he knew that he could trust. He knew that the entire board was antagonistic toward him. He knew that probably most of the workforce was antagonistic of him. And first coming in and starting to purge out the people that were antagonistic towards him, he is left with a skeleton crew running Twitter right now, which is important. And now he's got a smaller field of people that he could pick from. He actually knows some of the inner workings of this. He knows where the company wants to go and where he thinks he's going to be able to make the most money. And now I'm thinking he's probably got his CEO pick in his back pocket. And he's getting ready to go make the announcement, and he's trying to let these leftoid morons come out and believe that they won. But that's what we have for that. And it's always fun to see the leftoids come and make a victory lap. We've got the Reuters article here, which we'll use from this, but CNN also taking a major victory lap on this one. And I think we'll look at that, and then we'll look at the rules of acquisition and head out of here for the day. So let's look at, we'll use the Reuters one, since I archived it. Musk's poll result. Elon should step down as Twitter CEO. CNN, almost the exact same headline. Elon Musk poll results are in, he should step down, Twitter voters say. From Nivedita Balu, copied and pasted by Brian Fung. Twitter users voted decisively in a poll for Elon Musk to step down as chief executive of the social media platform, a backlash against the billionaire less than 2 months after he took over in what has been a chaotic and controversial reign. Musk said on Sunday he would abide by the results of the poll, but did not give details on when he would step down if results said he should. He said that there is no successor yet. I'm guessing that's not true. I'm guessing he's got somebody in mind. At least somebody in mind. By Musk and some analysts' assertions, drastic measures are needed if Twitter's business models to remain viable. There's an argument that without Musk at the helm, it's going to be difficult to find someone with enough gusto to change the course of Twitter's ship. That's Sophie Lund-Yates, analyst at Hargreaves Lansdowne. And yes, there is that aspect of it as well. This is a new toy for Elon, and he's going to play with it until it breaks. The poll results capped a whirlwind week that included changes to Twitter's privacy policy and the suspension and reinstatement of journalist accounts that drew condemnations from news organizations, advocacy groups, and officials across Europe. Then on Sunday, Twitter banned accounts that promoted rival social media platforms such as Facebook in a now deleted tweet, drawing questions from even longtime Musk supporters, including Twitter founder Jack Dorsey. Lindell, huh? I don't know about that one. But then CNN taking the same victory lap. Ha! We got rid of Elon. He said he's going to abide by it. He's going to step down. Well, who do you think he's going to put back in his place? Now, my honest question to the leftoids for this, do they think that he's going to sell the company back to the shareholders and Parag if he steps down as CEO? Do they actually believe that? I don't believe that. And you shouldn't either. Because it's crap. It's not going to happen. But they'll click their heels and they'll wish and they'll hope with all their mights. And perhaps that he will... He won't be the CEO and he won't own it anymore. Alright. Let's head out of here. Before we do, the last thing that we always do on a Monday is we look at the Ferengi rules of acquisition, which, again, as I said last week, does hold a little bit more meaning to me now because I am watching Deep Space Nine when I'm off camera. And one of my friends isn't on camera at night either. So we are in the triple digits for the rules of acquisition right now. And something that should probably be pretty obvious here, this coming from the Playing God episode of DS9, which I watched, I think, last week. I forget what the actual Playing God was about it, but it was one where Quark was in a position where he was explaining some of his failings and why he's relegated to tending a bar in a remote corner of the galaxy on what used to be an ore processing site, but has become a hub for intergalactic trade across the Bajoran wormhole. And Quark comes back out and utters a sage statement that we should all abide by. When he's talking about having major successes on Ferenginar beforehand, and now tending the bar, Miles O'Brien looks up and says, "Well, what happened that you got here?" And Quark comes up and says, "Rule of acquisition number 112, never have sex with the boss's sister." That should probably be obvious in any case whatsoever. Unless you got the job because you are married to the boss's sister. And that's like the only exception out there. And you're in really good terms with the boss too. Although, in personal experience, I wouldn't do that either. But, yeah, don't do that. By the way, this is a repeat too, so we'll take that down as well. This is also the 122nd rule. I wonder if that was a misprint somewhere, actually. I'm going to go back and watch that episode. As soon as Game Boys is over tonight, I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch Playing God, because I want to know if it was the 112th or 122nd, because it is posted twice here. 112th being never have sex with the boss's sister, and 122nd being never sleep with the boss's sister. But yeah, that one should be pretty obvious. So, with that, we're done, and we're out of here. What an interesting day. And I'm kind of, again, I'm hearing the echo off my voice here. I'm hearing it off the replays, and I'm gonna take Quest Banding's offer for the acoustic panels up, even though this is a temporary place, and I've actually got my eye on a house right now with a nice big spot that we can have a real studio. I'm still gonna want the acoustic sound panels in there, but I think some of the mitigation is gonna come is if I do move studio over there. But one of the hard parts to deal with in this in my new place is the fact that there's no carpet anywhere in here. I had hoped that having the easy chairs back here until I figured out what I was going to do would mitigate some of the echo, but that didn't happen, unfortunately. But, again, this may be a very temporary problem. I might just go and grab that. I wasn't crazy about the neighborhood the place is in, but I've been driving around it, and it actually does seem like it's not bad. So, and the price is right. I can say that right off the bat. Katie, I'll talk to you about that after the show. But with that, let's get some outro music up and let's head out of here for the day. All right, so with that, we finish off the night here of news, and we'll be leaving a couple things left over for tomorrow. Also talking about what's happening now and whether or not we'll get criminal referrals. We'll probably talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about Carrie Lake because I know they don't want us paying attention to that. And with the Carrie Lake thing, do expect there to be some trumped up news stories coming out of this. No pun intended, of course. We'll be back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time, for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary for 2 more hours. And then directly go over and join the Porch Boys if you're on the YouTube side. If you're on the Twitch side, stick around. We'll go find somebody else to raid. But I think most of us are going to go over and head on over to YouTube and check out the Porch Boys and see Midget B do some Majora's Mask action. And he does enjoy that Zelda series. So let's go over there and give him support. As of right now, I think it's Christmas. What day? I don't have the camera up, so I can actually look at my calendar here. Yeah, Christmas Eve is on Saturday, so we won't be doing we won't be going back to Legend of Zelda until the first of the year myself. So do keep that in mind as we go here. But if you're here for the news, stick around on this side as well. Come back here tomorrow. And if you liked what you saw, even if you disagree, but you like to have the conversation here, tell a couple friends. I don't mind having people who disagree in the live chat, and you do always get the thank you up in the notebook on Friday as well. So we will see you here next time on Contemporary. Looking forward to that. Come with me to the Game Boys or come with me on Twitch, whichever we decide. We will see you next time, and until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.